So I always feel bad when I cut off the music. I hope you guys weren't missing out on a dance party, but we're going to get started here. Welcome to the future of banking. Unlock insight on demand with AI. Today's awesome webinar is sponsored by Hewlett Packard Enterprise and NVIDIA and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Jess Steinbach, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this important conversation today, especially because I'm joined by two absolutely fascinating innovators who are here to share some insight on the key challenges facing banking and financial services today and explore how AI and accelerated computing can be leveraged to reduce risk, increase engagement, and expand customer service offerings. Now, there's a lot of information to cover here today, and I'm sure that you are just as excited as I am to get started. So I'm going to cruise through a few housekeeping things, and then we will dive right in. All right, first, I want to draw your attention to the questions section of your webinar console. The absolute best part of these webinars is the chance to ask those questions directly of our expert presenters. Not only will they be answering questions over live chat, they will be staying with us after the presentation for a live Q&A. So get those questions in. And hey, since you are already in that question box, why not say hi, introduce yourself to the other awesome and curious folks around you today. And knock on wood, if there are any technical issues that come up today, so slides not advancing, audio, video things, first try a quick browser refresh. That usually does the trick. But if not, you can shoot the team a message right there in that same questions console, and we'll be there to help you out. Okay, so if you're following along with me, and I know you all are, you're already there in that questions tab, and right next to it is a handout section. I want you to click on that handout section because you're going to see some exciting content to go along with the webinar today, including a solutions overview and an invite to HPE Discover coming up this June. There's also some awesome resources from Actual Tech Media, including the Gorilla Guidebook Club and our events calendar. So if you info-hungry humans out there have not already done so, be sure to explore that handout section. You can download some great content, share it with your friends and colleagues. And hey, it's not just awesome content we're giving away today. We also have a $300 Amazon gift card as a prize drawing at the end of our webinar. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. If you are not sure what those are, you can find the full T's and C's, again, in that handy dandy handouts tab. So just click into the handout section, scroll down, and you'll find it there. Now, as I mentioned before, we think the question part of this is one of the most important things in a webinar. In fact, we think it is so important that we are even throwing in some extra incentive to get those hands up and those questions rolling. So today we'll be giving away a $50 Amazon gift card to the best question asked. Now, keep in mind that our team is reviewing all questions asked after the event, which means that even if your question does not get read out in our live Q&A, which sometimes happens when we're a little short on time, there is still a chance to win. And as always, we will reach out via email after the event. All right, well, with that, it is time to start our webinar. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our two expert speakers today. Bar Mahoney, North America Solutions Business Manager, HPC and AI for Financial Services at HPE, and Kevin Levitt, Global Industry Business Development Financial Services at NVIDIA. Kevin and Bar, I know you have a lot of exciting content to get into, so I'm going to hand the mic right over to you.
Thanks, Jess, for the great introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with everybody today. Bar and I are super excited to talk about the future of banking and unlocking insight on demand with an AI platform for banking powered by HPE and NVIDIA. I have the pleasure of kicking off today's conversation. We'll talk about some of the key trends in the industry, particularly as it relates to AI, as well as some core use cases where banks and other financial services companies are leveraging AI and accelerated computing to power their businesses. So let's kick off with a little conversation around some of the key challenges facing financial services today. As everybody is well aware, financial markets continue to exhibit tremendous volatility and increased risk. And that drives investment in new capabilities from financial services companies to help manage that risk effectively. And high performance computing, accelerated computing, AI are key elements to helping banks manage and take advantage, frankly, of that risk opportunity. Digital engagement continues to accelerate, as everybody knows, given the environment. There's been a significant decline in branch banking that has been correlated to a dramatic increase in digital engagement for mobile banking, digital payments, and banks are continuing to invest significant resources in enhancing their digital applications, many of which they are enabling with AI today, and we'll talk about that in more detail. And then last, certainly customer service demands continue to spike. There are a variety of financial stresses still endemic in the market today. Customers need access to their financial advisors, to their banks, to help mitigate their financial needs and make sure that they have the opportunity to continue on a successful financial journey. And AI will play and is already playing a key role in enabling better customer service for banking and financial customers across the ecosystem. So given the challenges that exist today, I wanted to talk a little bit more detail around the competitive environment. And there are a number of companies that are competing for customers and their financial data, and really enterprise AI and a transformation that's taking place across financial services led by AI is necessary to compete effectively. As you can see, there are four main competitors from our perspective here. Certainly the incumbent banks have a major role to play given the scale and scope of their customer base, as well as the data that they have. Plus, many of these banks have significant developer communities, data scientists, machine learning engineers, and so forth, with the ability to develop their own AI-enabled applications to meet the demands of their customers and acquire new ones. Then you have the fintechs and the digital natives that are really focused on customer experience, reducing friction and creating greater efficiencies. A lot of that, again, being led by AI-enabled applications, everything from deep learning for underwriting to virtual assistants and chatbots to enable an enhanced customer experience with the digital native fintech companies. Then you've got big tech like Amazon and Apple and Google Pay and so forth. These are traditional digital natives that are massive entities with significant resources, both financial as well as from a developer standpoint. And their motivation may be different in terms of accessing customers and financial data for use in advertising and better personalization of experiences. But the competitive nature is still very much resident in their objectives. And then last but not least is big retail, companies like Walmart that have announced digital financial services initiatives, where again, they're using their market power and position, as well as their developer community to compete effectively for customers and their financial data. So given this competitive landscape and the importance of AI, we fielded a survey last year to ask financial services professionals, how important is AI to your company's future success? And over 80% of respondents said that it's quite important to their company's future success. And when we followed that up to say, well, how are you investing in AI technologies to be successful in the future? The three top responses were that they're working to identify additional AI use cases. And we think this is reflective of the fact that traditionally, years ago, AI was under the purview of research and innovation labs. Those research and innovation labs were able to get proofs of concept for AI out into the field. They were able to see significant ROI, either by increasing top-line revenue and or reducing operational inefficiencies because of AI. And therefore, the banks are now diffusing an enterprise AI capability horizontally across lines of business, and they're looking for more AI use cases to take advantage of in the marketplace today. In order to do that, they need to hire more AI expertise, folks, like I mentioned earlier, from data scientists to machine learning engineers. And then they also need to spend more on infrastructure. This is obviously a critical element. The banks have developed AI enterprise level strategies. What they have not necessarily invested in is the infrastructure to enable success against that AI strategy that sits horizontally at the enterprise level to enable centers of excellence, as well as the lines of business to effectively create AI-enabled applications and deliver them into production. So what sort of AI applications are the banks delivering into production? Well, across the sectors, whether it's from banking or capital markets, insurance, payments, and fintech, these are the 8 priority use cases where we primarily see our customers investing today. So starting on the top left, using AI for underwriting. As I mentioned earlier, companies are using deep learning at the point of application for personal loans and home loans to underwrite more effectively. This is also an important use case for insurance, where companies are using, pay as you drive data that comes in real time from mobile phones to more effectively understand risk for auto insurance and price policies more effectively. Fraud detection is critical, and AI is playing a key role today, both for transaction fraud and identifying, illicit transactions from a credit card swipe perspective, but they're also using AI for identity verification. And this is critical for anti-money laundering, as well as KYC, know your customer regulations, where companies are beginning to use graph neural networks and other advanced deep learning techniques to improve their fraud detection capabilities. From a high performance computing standpoint, risk and understanding risk across the enterprise is a critical use case within capital markets. Being able to run Monte Carlo simulations, price derivatives, other exotics appropriately and trade them effectively is critical to the success of the capital market side of financial institutions. And accelerated computing from HPE and NVIDIA is providing a key foundational element from an infrastructure standpoint to enable those capabilities. That pairs well with algorithmic trading, where we're seeing algorithms either execute the trades independently of any human trader, or algorithms taking in all the variety of data in real time that's available in the marketplace and surfacing signal to the human trader so they can more effectively manage their portfolios and the risks and opportunities associated with them. On the bottom left, document automation. This is really about removing inefficiencies from the financial services, particularly middle office and back office functions, where we can leverage AI and robotic process automation to extract key data elements from all the variety of forms and data that needs to be submitted on behalf of customers through applications and other parts of the financial process, where AI can do a better job of extracting that information, quality checking it, and then giving the human element the opportunity to focus on the higher order and more sophisticated problems rather than rote data extraction and monitoring. From a customer service standpoint, I mentioned earlier, virtual assistants and AI-led chatbots are critical, but also we see a lot of use of AI in the call center, where AI is being used to transcribe calls within the call center to improve the note-taking capabilities of the customer service agents. Those notes can then be used in real time to understand sentiment, as well as make next best action recommendations to customer service agents to improve the quality of the call and service that's being provided to consumers. And that pairs nicely with the next use case, which is all around personalization. How do we take all of the data that we know about individuals, and in other circumstances, this may be people who bought this also purchased this, or people who watch this also like to watch these types of shows. In financial services, the problem and opportunities are the same, which is people that are in a similar situation from a financial journey standpoint. What is the next best action to help them along their financial path to success? And how can the bank better serve that customer with personalized content, as well as upsell and cross-sell recommendations? And then last but not least is virtualization, and enabling traders that need multiple monitors in high resolution at home to access the virtualization capabilities that are necessary to make them effective in their work, no matter where they choose to work. So these are the priority use cases where we see banks and insurance companies and others investing today. Let's take a look at some of these use cases in more detail. As I was saying earlier, one of the great use cases for AI and ML in the context of financial services occurs within capital markets and using high performance computing for risk analyses. In this case, JPMorgan Chase migrated much of their risk platform onto NVIDIA GPUs. And as a result, they were able to run their risk calculations 40 times faster and to reduce their costs by 80%. So demonstrating the power of accelerated computing to move risk calculations from what historically might take days or hours down to minutes and seconds, making the trading floor, risk managers, and other associated parties far more effective in their day-to-day workflows. Moving out of capital markets and into the fraud detection arena, this case study from American Express highlights the opportunity for banks when they move from machine learning capabilities to deep learning when it comes to fraud detection for transactions. American Express, in this case, saw a 6% improvement in fraud detection accuracy, which not only drives a significant improvement to the bottom line of American Express, but just as importantly, delivers a great customer experience to those of us that are using American Express cards at the point of checkout, because we won't be flagged falsely as a positive risk and therefore have our transaction delayed or even canceled. And reducing these false positives really improves the customer experience for all American Express cardholders, as well as the merchant community that American Express is serving. And this is all enabled by NVIDIA GPUs at the point of production for inference in partnership with NVIDIA software, in particular TensorRT and Triton inference serving. And then we wanted to share a little bit more about the customer journey. And in this case, consumers often start with an exploration and search for the right financial service product. In this case, NerdWallet is using NVIDIA GPUs to train AI models to make better recommendations for which financial services product makes the most sense given where they are in their financial lives. So if they're researching the appropriate personal loan or auto loan or credit card, NerdWallet takes in all the information that they understand about their over 100 million yearly visitors to make appropriate recommendations based on the products that they can actually qualify for and will be accepted to help the consumer along their financial path. And again, this is all about speeding the process of AI model training from days down to minutes, which makes your most valued resource, in many cases, your data scientists, that much more efficient and effective by giving them the right tools and infrastructure to do their life's work. Continuing along the financial journey, after the customer has identified the product that they want to apply for, they'll submit the application. And in this case, Upstart is using deep learning at the point of underwriting after the application has been submitted to take in all variety of data, including alternative data that exists outside of the credit score and credit report, to underwrite consumer applications more effectively. As you can see, NVIDIA GPUs here have been able to reduce training times by about 40%, again, making those data scientists far more effective. They can get improved models out to market that much more quickly, which delivers a better customer experience. And in this case, the Upstart deep learning models are able to approve 27% more borrowers at an average 16% lower APR. So this is a great financial empowerment and enablement story, showcasing what happens when you leverage deep learning techniques at the point of underwriting to serve your customers, as well as the bank's risk and regulatory needs. Once the customer has that product in hand, they often have customer service questions. And this we talked about at the very outset as one of the challenges, given all the financial stress in the market today, where customers need to access their financial institution with critical questions about what to do next. In this case, we're highlighting a success story from Square, who's using NVIDIA GPUs to train natural language models that enable their Square Assistant, which is a virtual assistant and chatbot that enables small and medium-sized businesses to schedule appointments, reschedule appointments, enable customers to get greater access to the small business and the services that they provide. And as you can see highlighted here, by migrating from CPUs to GPUs, Square was able to run their models in terms of training 10 times faster on NVIDIA GPUs, which again helps the data scientists iterate on the models, be able to solve more customer questions much more quickly by getting new models trained and into the production more expediently. So all of this really dovetails into an enterprise AI infrastructure capability that serves the entire bank. Because one of the great opportunities and frankly challenges of AI in the context of financial services is that it's not a singular use case that banks are trying to enable with AI. There are hundreds today, and there will be thousands in the future of applications that will be enabled with AI across financial institutions. And so you really need an enterprise level solution that supports all the lines of business across the bank to enable success across all these different use cases. And that's the story here with RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, who has built a state-of-the-art AI cloud powered by NVIDIA. And so this is resident within an on-premise capability for the bank to service all the lines of business, powered by NVIDIA GPUs and Red Hat OpenShift, so that the bank can run thousands of simulations, analyzing millions of data points in a fraction of the time that they could before, which means that they can deliver far more AI-enabled applications into market to deliver enhanced customer experience and enabling AI smart applications across the enterprise. So all of this is designed to demonstrate that there are point solutions and use cases across the bank, across each step in the customer journey that will be enabled with AI and need to be enabled with AI for you all to compete most effectively in this new environment where a variety of players from incumbents to fintechs to big tech and retail are competing for customers and their financial data. And to do that, NVIDIA has partnered with HPE to deliver an AI platform for banking. And at this point, I'll pass it over to Bar from HPE to talk about the platform in more detail.
Thank you, Kevin. So what you'll see here is an overview of the AI platform for banking. And both HPE and NVIDIA, as Kevin noted, are delivering a flexible and scalable AI platform for banking that has the capability to support multiple AI applications across the bank. And the architecture you see here is flexible in the sense that various components or capabilities can be selected based upon your requirements. And I'll walk through the architecture at a high level on this slide and then speak in a bit more detail about the components on the ensuing slides so you can understand the various capabilities that this platform offers and from which you can select. So at the top, you see the use cases. Kevin talked about these use cases, and advancements in AI are driving progress in 4 primary use cases for banks. The first is fraud detection and identity verification. Next, robotic process automation, often referred to as RPA for document processing, or as Kevin described, document automation. Next would be conversational AI and automatic speech recognition, employed as Kevin described for customer service. And then the fourth is recommendation engines for next best action, employed for personalization, as Kevin talked about. And the platform itself is based upon the HPE Esmeral software suite, which addresses critical challenges for unlocking the value of data and operationalizing AI ML models across the organization. The underlying infrastructure provides a high-performance set of capabilities that are inclusive of compute, networking, and storage to handle multiple AI applications. And then at the bottom, you see HPE PointNext offers a broad range of professional and advisory services to assist banks throughout the AI lifecycle, from pilot through to production. And then GreenLake gives customers choice in how to deploy and manage AI via a cloud service. So let me describe in a bit more detail the capabilities of the components of the architecture, starting with the HPE Esmeral software suite. So Esmeral unlocks the value of data and operationalizes AI ML across the organization. And on the left, you see HPE Esmeral Runtime Enterprise, which is an enterprise-grade platform to deploy Kubernetes at scale for a wide range of use cases on bare metal or virtualized infrastructure. This is also the industry's first container platform designed to run modern applications, both cloud native and non-cloud native, with persistent data, making it easier for institutions to manage their apps with containerized application deployments. Next is HPE Esmeral Unified Analytics, which is an analytics and data lakehouse platform for data science and data analytics, and native integration of open source Apache Spark, Airflow, MLflow boosts data and scientific team productivity. And then to the right, HPE Esmeral ML Ops is a complete solution for the ML model lifecycle, with capabilities that enable users to run all their machine learning tasks on a single unified platform. And this would include model building through to training, deployment, monitoring, and collaboration. And then at the bottom, HPE Esmeral Data Fabric File and Object Store integrates existing files, objects, streams, and databases with a single global namespace for simplified data access from any application or interface. Next, I'd like to cover the resources available to you for building or buying applications to run on this platform. So, Esmeral Marketplace is a one-stop shop for HPE Esmeral validated ISV applications. And here our goal is to leverage the open source Kubernetes ecosystem and our modern ISV partners in order to make it easier for clients to adopt integrated solutions that combine Esmeral software with validated industry-leading third-party commercial as well as open source applications. On the right, NVIDIA NGC hosts 150 plus NVIDIA certified AI frameworks and software development kits with pre-trained models to support and build AI-enabled applications. And here, for example, NVIDIA Merlin is an open source framework for building large-scale deep learning recommender systems. And then NVIDIA Riva is a GPU-accelerated SDK for building speech AI applications. And then down on the right, there's a diverse ecosystem of NVIDIA certified AI applications that serve to streamline risk management, heighten operational efficiencies, and enhance the customer experience. And so you have the opportunity to buy applications in order to run on this platform. So we talked about fraud detection and identity verification, and two of the ISVs that provide applications in this space are Intelligent Voice and Acern. For robotic process automation, Applica and Hypatos. For conversational AI and automatic speech recognition, Acern, Logical Clocks, and Unifor. And then for recommendation engines, Unifor and DeepGram. So now let's take a look at the HPE AI Optimized Infrastructure. So this infrastructure includes compute, storage, networking, as well as other elements, including software, as we talked about. And from a compute perspective, the platform is built on the HPE Apollo 6500 Gen 10 Plus systems. And these are accelerated by the industry-leading NVIDIA A100 HGX GPUs. From a fabric perspective, the platform utilizes the HPE InfiniBand HDR, which is based on the NVIDIA Mellanox ConnectX-6, which delivers high throughput and low latency required for ML applications. And then with respect to storage, for the most demanding applications that need access to large data sets in a single namespace at very high speeds, the Cray Cluster Store or HPE Parallel File System Storage are excellent options. And then HPE Esmeral Data Fabric is really the right choice to build a global namespace across geographically dispersed environments where your data is dispersed or distributed. And then we clearly recognize that AI resource demands are just going to continue to increase. And so this infrastructure allows you to quickly deploy the resources you need now, and then provides the option to easily expand capacity as and when you need it. So in terms of recommended configurations, you could start with a cluster featuring 5 Apollo 6500 Gen 10 Plus servers for customers who are making the step up to enterprise class AI and have less than 200 terabytes of training data. Then there's a medium configuration here, which features 10 HPE Apollo 6500 Gen 10 Plus servers. And this would be for customers who are growing an existing AI function and have up to 500 terabytes of training data. Or in the largest configuration, featuring 20 to 140 HPE Apollo 6500 Gen 10 Plus servers, this would be appropriate for customers who are already working with extremely large data sets of at least 1 petabyte and have typically a mature AI program. So next, let's turn to how HPE can simplify AI and boost operational flexibility through our service capabilities. So HPE PointNext services, as well as HPE GreenLake Cloud Services, really help to simplify AI and boost operational flexibility so that you can innovate much faster. HPE PointNext offers a broad range of professional, technical, and advisory support in order to empower you through the AI lifecycle from pilot through to production, and help in designing and implementing a successful AI strategy. There is an AI transformation workshop which can help you no matter where you are in the AI journey. And I'll actually go into a bit more detail on this transformation workshop in the next slide, as I really encourage you to take advantage of the expertise provided by PointNext Advisory and Professional Services. So the next service listed here is the HPE Esmeral Accelerator for Kubernetes, which includes the installation of Esmeral Runtime Enterprise, the selection of a target application to the Esmeral proof of concept environment. And then the service also has add-on options for DevOps and security assessments, as well as a selection of education training courses. And then last, the HPE AMP assessment program helps you to develop a modern data analytics platform. And here our experts analyze your current state platform, including your data workflows or pipelines, your analytical applications, use cases, data sources, and structures, and the underlying infrastructure. And then we map the current state findings against the desired business outcomes, the current platform limitations, the performance requirements, as well as the service level agreements or SLAs. And then finally, we prescribe a systematic plan to achieve your future state goals. As we look at HPE Cloud Services, HPE GreenLake Cloud Services really give you a choice in how to deploy and manage AI with a complete AI platform cloud service. And here, HPE GreenLake for MLOps makes it easier and faster to deploy AI ML workloads on-premise with a cloud experience that is self-service, pay-per-use, scalable, and managed for you. Here, this service integrates hardware, software, and service in order to enable you to build, train, and deploy ML models quickly and at scale. And the offering provides a Kubernetes-based, modern, extensible data science framework that empowers data scientists through tooling and defined workflows to build out data science algorithms across any data science use case. So I want to now spend a little bit more time on the AI transformation workshop. as I really encourage you to engage in one of these workshops. So this workshop is provided by HPE Point Next Advisory and Professional Services to explore, experiment, and then expand AI within your organization. And what we see is that about 98% of organizations say they're using AI ML in some capacity, yet 58% of organizations say finding the expertise or partners to implement an AI ML strategy is a challenge, and rank it, in fact, among their top 2 barriers for moving into production. And so I'd really, again, encourage you to take the first step by taking a one-day AI transformation workshop. And here you would engage key business, data science, as well as IT stakeholders to align on a vision and a plan for your AI and analytics-driven transformation initiatives. And in the workshop, you'll examine potential use case objectives and priorities. And then from there, you'll identify the AI functionality to address the use case in order to reach your institution's objectives. And then you'll develop a high-level roadmap and action plan for implementation. And in fact, recently, HPE Point Next was recognized by IDC as a leader in the delivery of AI IT services via their IDC MarketScape for 2021. So I highly recommend that you contact HPE or a channel partner sales representative to engage in an AI transformation workshop, or you can indicate interest in the survey and an HPE representative will contact you. The last thing I'd like to address is HPE Discover, which is coming up June 28th through the 30th in Las Vegas. And at Discover, this is really the ideal place for you to explore edge to cloud solutions that'll accelerate your data first modernization and drive your institution's objectives forward much faster. Here you can hear from HPE leadership as well as other industry visionaries. You can engage with experts as well as your peers and immerse yourself in training, hands-on workshops, theaters, demos, and more. And then as well, there's many engaging opportunities to expand your network and make new connections. And here you can see that you can visit hpe.com/discover to learn more. And with that, let's open it up to questions. So back to you, Jess.
Wow. Thank you, Kevin and Bar, for that wonderful presentation. Just a super exciting topic. So many different elements here. I mean, you have new technology and development meeting old and deep industry. You've got compliance and infrastructure and so many human elements. It's just kind of everything blended together. It's fascinating. Well, I can see that we've got a lot of great questions coming in, and I'm going to put up a poll question in just a moment here. But first, before we get to that, I want to remind all of you in our audience today that the links on the slide there are clickable. So if you would like to kind of explore some of the resources, especially that Bar just mentioned at the end there, please do click on those links now, go check them out, but then come right on back because we're going to get started with our live Q&A here. So first, I'm just going to throw this poll up because we'd love to get some more information from you on how HPE and NVIDIA can help you on your AI journey. So the options here to learn more about an AI transformation workshop, or potentially learn more about an HPE Discover, the event coming up in June, book a 15-minute conversation with an AI specialist, or you're all set at this time, or best yet, you're already a customer and you're good to go. So if you guys want to take a minute to fill that out, and in the meantime, Bar and Kevin, we have some amazing questions coming in. Are you guys ready to get started?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, let's start out with this one. You guys walked us through some use cases, and we have a question here. How do you go about deciding on the infrastructure based on the use cases?
Sure, I can take that one. So it depends upon a number of factors naturally. So one would be the amount of data or training data that an institution has, and thus that would dictate in particular the storage requirements of the infrastructure. And then likewise that drives also the fabric requirements about how much data you have to move in and out. And what I'll do also is a gentleman has joined us, Cyril Hug, who is an HPC and AI sales specialist at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. And Cyril, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this question as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me good?
We
Yeah,
gotcha.
sure can.
All right, nice. So it's an interesting question, and one that both HPE and NVIDIA are doing quite a bit of work on, helping customers understand where they need to go. I think what the first step to kind of decide on which infrastructure you want to run on, even if you need to on-prem or cloud, is what is your workload actually doing? Is it traditional machine learning that you could run on mostly CPU-based systems, right? Or are you looking at expanding into the deep learning space, at which point you're looking at GPUs? And then obviously, as soon as you go GPUs, at which scale are you going to deploy deep learning? Do you need systems with multiple GPUs interconnected with each other? Or is one GPU maybe good enough to power your application? And from there, I think there's a little bit of a decision tree on selecting the appropriate hardware, software, but also the storage and networking infrastructure in the backend to feed those systems with the training and validation data set, as Bar mentioned, right?
And maybe actually, Cyril, maybe this is for you as well. Since the AI would need to connect to ML models, which would then depend on the data feed, what is the source of this data feed, and do we consider the data from third-party vendors or suppliers?
Yeah, I can give my thoughts and then maybe also have Kevin speak to it. Absolutely. So data, in my experience, comes from various places, right? We definitely have internal data that's often siloed, traditional transactions, for instance, if we talk about credit card data. But we also have data sets that we pull in from different sources, maybe data that is not in our realms. For instance, one example would be weather data or traffic pattern data to predict certain transactions or certain financial interactions. So having, in my opinion, a data platform or a data hub in your organization where you streamline, label, and create version data sets for consumption across the entire organization is a key part. And as part of the platform that we talked about today, we have our data fabric that exactly does that for your organization, so data comes consumable across the organization. Kevin, do you have maybe some of your thoughts from the NVIDIA side?
Sorry, just to quickly build on that. I mean, yes, data is the oil of the new economy, so to speak. And, what's critical is that there are a lot of tools to help with all the kind of data prep steps that Cyril was just stepping everybody through. So there are, including GPU accelerated open source solutions like rapids.ai, which helps with data prep, ETL, et cetera, because obviously the pipeline is only as good as what you feed it with. And so making sure that you've got the proper data and not just the proper steps, but also the proper data governance in place. I saw a question earlier about how to make sure you've got the right controls in place. Those are important as well. But yes, data is key to priming the engine and enabling these AI applications to operate effectively.
Awesome. So this one here, are GPUs always the best choice for AI and deep learning algorithms? Is this going to help banks have an advantage over maybe a decentralized finance or apps?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. You would have thought my mom might have submitted that to ask if GPU is the best. So, I mean, the short answer is yes, but why is that? And because it's all about making the best use and operational efficiency of your data and your data scientists' time. And these are highly valued resources They are folks that we worked really hard to recruit. We need to retain them. And the way to retain them is to give them the best platform and tools upon which to do their life's work. And the last thing you want is data scientists spending more time at the coffee machine, so to speak, than they are, actually training models and deploying newly enhanced models to production. And the best way to get that productivity, particularly for AI and deep learning algorithms, is with GPUs. You'll see not only increases in productivity by using accelerated computing powered by GPUs, but you'll also see enhanced models, which leads to better outcomes for your customers and a better ROI for your business.
Anyone else? Are we good to move on? All right. This one's a little bit more human focused. So let's talk about what the best way to help an organization adopt and educate and move forward in terms of using and leveraging AI.
Yeah, so I'll jump in here, Jess. So actually, the people aspect of things is absolutely critical, especially in terms of ensuring that there is alignment within the organization across like the data science team, the line of business team, and IT for that matter. And in fact, one of the functions of the AI transformation workshop is to do just that, to drive that alignment within the organization. And thus I'd highly recommend, that as a great starting point in order to drive that alignment, identify the use cases, and identify the AI functionality that should be applied based upon the use case and the desired business outcome.
Love that. Yeah, the human element is always something that's important to take into account, especially with this. And actually, I think maybe this kind of relates a little bit. We do have a question. I know in the presentation you kind of addressed that there's different configurations that work for different size organizations. But this gentleman here is asking a little bit more information on whether or not big or smaller nonprofits might be able to benefit from these technologies because they have a lot of data, but they don't have a lot of resources and a lot of capital. So can they play in the space as well?
Yeah, and I can comment on that. So absolutely, and one of the functions of this platform would be, as we talked about, we see organizations either building or buying their AI applications. And so in particular, when companies are getting started, they're gravitating more so towards buying applications. And then the other thing I'd make a point of is HPE offers a capability called GreenLake, where we provide AI as a service, if you will. And thus, it's a great way to move into AI as a service so that you don't have to worry about obtaining the infrastructure and managing the infrastructure. Rather, it can be consumed, as it is used. So it's a good way for people to move into AI in a cost-effective manner.
I'm not sure if. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'll just chime in. It's Kevin. Yeah. So just thinking about the opportunity for the smaller banks, the regional banks, the fintechs. A couple of thoughts. One is, think of it as if we're just at the dawn of kind of online and then mobile banking, right? Everybody was asking the same questions. Would credit unions, small and medium-sized banks be able to take advantage of these technologies? And if so, how? And, in some cases, they've actually outperformed the big banks in terms of the level of service and the sophistication of the applications that they've been able to deliver for both online and mobile banking. I wouldn't be surprised to see the same ultimately take hold in terms of how the credit unions and smaller enterprises are able to use AI. There are a number of inherent advantages in being more nimble, perhaps having a newer underlying infrastructure and architecture from a technology standpoint. And then, the fintechs while they want to compete significantly from an AI perspective, they lack what a lot of credit unions and certainly the big banks have, which is the data, right? And so we fielded a survey just recently about the state of AI and financial services. And what we learned from our partners and customers in the ecosystem is that the big banks are jealous of the fintechs and credit unions who operate on a nimbler and newer technology architecture in some cases, and they lack kind of the AI enterprise platform that we're talking about here today. At the same time, the fintechs are looking at the credit unions and the big banks saying, we wish we had all the data that you have so we can employ it in our AI enabled applications. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for those size banks and credit unions to participate. And ultimately, we do believe, there's a significant competition, obviously, for customers and their financial data. The big banks, the fintechs, you've got big tech, Amazon and Apple and Google participating here, as well as big retail. Walmart has a significant push now with another fintech program coming to light. So the way to compete in part is going to be driven by AI. And if you're not leveraging AI to deliver enhanced customer service, to improve your underwriting and risk management practices, to do a better job of personalizing the experience for your customers, then the companies and competitors that are going to do a better job of retaining and driving higher profit value from lifetime value from those customers.
Isn't that fascinating that, the big companies are really admiring the agility and the smaller companies are always looking at the resources and the grass is always greener. But the good news is, I guess, as consumers and customers, we benefit from that very ecosystem.
Hey, Jess, there was a question that I'd like to address, as I often get this question. And it was around how do we ensure GDPR compliance for the data collected and processed?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a question, that is paramount, especially in the financial sector, given data privacy issues and such. And HPE is actually introducing a product called Swarm Learning that helps in this regard. And actually, Cyril, I might ask you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So, as a matter of fact, both HPE and NVIDIA have introduced concepts where we can extract insights from maybe siloed data or heavily regulated data. You mentioned GDPR, which is prevalent in Europe, right? But still extract insights from that data without actually having to share the data across countries or continents. And the concept of it really is that we look at the data as a source for insights. And when we talk about maybe using deep learning as a source for training models and then getting parameters such as weights, biases, and other hyperparameters for that model that we train on that specific local data and share that across multiple countries. So we're not really sharing the data, but insights we can gather that from the model perspective and then merge that to a globally applicable model. So if you think financial space, maybe in an area of credit card transactions, we can leverage learnings from credit card transactions in Europe and maybe even Asia Pacific and merge those with the learnings that we have here in the US without ever sharing the data itself. And I think that is a great way of kind of circumventing the heavy restrictions with, GDPR, PCIe compliance, and still get the insights from that data.
Well, I think that's where we'll have to leave it today because we're running a little bit short on time. Before you guys leave us, though, I do just want to ask if there's any last thoughts that you want to leave the audience with. If somebody is looking to get started and maybe start integrating some more AI strategies into their organization, I do have those links back up for you, and please remember the handouts tab there. But Kevin, Bar, Cyril, any sort of next steps that you'd want to remind the audience of?
Yeah, so sure. In terms of getting started, again, I'd point to this AI transformation workshop. It really can help a business or company, no matter where they are in their AI journey, But in particular, in getting started, it's a great way to identify those use cases. And then the other thing I'd mention is, again, HPE Discover. There actually is a AI track at Discover, and there are a number of sessions that will be featured there, such that you can learn much more about how to employ AI within your institution.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that. Kevin, Cyril, anything else?
Yeah, just to build on Bart's statement quickly, there are two words that we talk about frequently, and that's educate and enable. And so think of us as partners in both of those contexts. You know, this is a long journey. AI is going to be part of your organization for decades to come. First and foremost, we've got to educate, you know, the stakeholders internally around the opportunity and the way to appropriately enable the business to have a successful transformation when it comes to enterprise AI and financial services. And HPE and NVIDIA are ready to help you.
I love that. Well, thank you to all three of you. Cyril, you were a guest star on this Q&A. Thank you to all three of you for being here. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
All right. Well, folks, the fun is not over yet because we still have a prize to give away. So we are going to be giving away a $300 Amazon gift card, and the winner is Marina Sterner from Illinois. Marina Sterner from Illinois. Congratulations to Marina. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after the event. And with that, on behalf of Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank HPE and NVIDIA for making this possible. And a special thank you to all of you for attending, asking some great questions today. These events are so wonderful to be a part of because they give us all an opportunity to connect and explore these new ideas together. I hope you've all learned some interesting and exciting things about AI and the future of banking, and I hope that we'll see you all again soon. Until then, have an absolutely beautiful rest of your day.